Madison, you told me the family vacation was postponed. It was, for you, my wife. Madison smirked. So, I blocked their access to the hotel. And, yeah, I ruined all their plans. Sorry, what? I said, blinking as I stared at Madison across the corridor of her parents' house. You said the trip was postponed. Madison didn't even flinch. She just kept scrolling through her phone. Then she looked up at me with that smug, condescending smile I had known since our early days together. It was postponed, she said sweetly, for you. Just a week ago, she told me the vacation was canceled. Too expensive, she claimed. And my parents aren't feeling well, she added. Let's aim for next season. But now, as I stood in Madison's parents' house, still holding the bag of groceries I'd picked up for her family, I saw the suitcases lined up at the door. I could hear laughter coming from the kitchen. Her parents joking, her brother bragging about his hotel upgrade, and Madison barking orders about packing the right outfits. They were leaving. Today. Without me. Unreal. I muttered, setting the bag down. You all lied to me. My mother-in-law glanced up briefly, then down at her tea. My father-in-law didn't even bother looking away from his phone. No one spoke. Madison just shrugged like it wasn't a big deal. You've been so busy lately, she said, her tone fake sympathetic. We thought you'd appreciate the time to yourself. Busy, right? Busy. I was the one who had booked the hotel. The one who sent Madison the deposit because she claimed her card was maxed out. The one who paid the travel insurance and helped her parents renew their passports. And they didn't just go without me. They planned to cut me out. I see, I said quietly. So, I cover the costs, and then get told to enjoy the peace and quiet at home. Alone. Madison raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying herself. You always complain about how we stress you out, she said. We thought that for you. Vacation meant being alone at home while we all went off on a trip. We were just doing you a favor. The way she said it. Like she was the hero of the story. Like this wasn't the final act in a long, slow betrayal. I wanted to scream. To flip the kitchen table and yell about everything I had done for them. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. And that scared her more than any outburst could. Okay, I said, grabbing my keys. Enjoy your little trip. Her expression faltered. You're not mad. I gave a soft chuckle. No, I'm done. She looked confused for a moment. Then amused. Then, for just a flicker of a second, nervous. But it was too late. She had played her game. Now it was my turn. You know what hurt the most? It's not the fact that they went on a luxury family vacation without me. It's that I paid for it. It started 6 months ago. Madison called me in one of her usual, let's connect as a couple moods. That should have been the first red flag. I found this gorgeous hotel in Crete, she said. It has an infinity pool, private beach access. And you won't believe the chef's reviews. I laughed. Sounds like you're already packing your bags, I teased. Not yet, she said sweetly. It's just a little out of budget for my parents. And I don't want them to stress, you know? My parents will need help with the rental car and, well, you know, everything else. Her words seemed innocent enough, but the way she said everything else felt loaded with meaning. She wasn't just talking about logistics. She was talking about the money. She always spoke so confidently when it came to money, like it was her right to decide how and where it was spent. Madison added, I thought maybe we could go in together. You and me. Like a gift for the family. The way she said we made me pause. But she always knew how to dress her words. I should have said no. But I didn't. I was the dependable one. The stable one. The invisible scaffolding holding up their chaos. So, I wired the deposit for $4,000. Then came the surprise fees, flight changes, and rental car upgrades. Another $1,100 here, $1,300 there. When her parents heard about the trip, they smiled like royalty being honored. That's very mature of you, her mom said. Good to see you finally stepping up, her dad added. No thank you. No offer to contribute. Just this expectation that I was the family piggy bank. There was never any hint of help. No words of support. Only requests and the expectation that I would handle everything, as if it were my duty. But I didn't complain. Not when Madison needed help booking their ferry transfers. Not when her dad asked me to just throw in for the travel insurance. I told myself I was doing it for the memories. For some illusion of a family I never really had. But now, I saw what they really thought of me. A means to an end. A wallet. A placeholder. The worst part? They didn't just lie. They orchestrated it. Because 2 weeks before the trip, I casually asked her mom, So, we're still good for the 14th, right? She blinked like I'd slapped her. Oh, actually, Madison said we're postponing until August. Something about off-season deals. Madison lied to my face, and then told her mom to cover it up. Even then, I tried to justify it. Maybe they just forgot to tell me the new plan. Maybe there was a mistake. But the truth exploded in my face the night before their flight. I stopped by her parents' house to drop off some paperwork and found Madison in the kitchen, laughing, spinning with excitement. Didn't think you'd be here, she said flatly. You said it was postponed, I said, eyes narrowing. She smiled like the devil in designer sunglasses. It was. For you. I looked at the door. Her dad was loading bags into the car. Her mom was pouring champagne. They were celebrating before they even boarded the plane. Why? I asked, barely above a whisper. Madison tilted her head like I was slow. Come on. You really want to be there? You always ruin everything. You sit in the corner and judge everyone. You're so boring in company. You don't make anyone laugh. You never want to play games, and you never tell any interesting stories. No offense, but this trip needed to be light. No bad vibes. Then she rolled her eyes and walked past me like I was a coffee table. Something cracked in me. I walked out without a word. As I sat alone in the dimly lit living room, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on me, my mind wandered back to a time before all the lies. The house felt eerily quiet now, but it wasn't always like this. There was a time when I was part of something that felt like family, something I believed in with every ounce of my being. I remembered the first time I met Madison's parents. It was a warm summer evening, and her mom had prepared a lavish dinner, the smell of roasted chicken and fresh herbs filling the air. I had been nervous, but they had welcomed me with open arms, their smiles genuine and warm. Madison's father had even cracked a joke about how he was finally happy that she found someone who could keep up with her. We had laughed together, and for a moment, it felt like they were my family too. We had taken trips together, family vacations that Madison insisted on planning. I could still see the excitement in her eyes as she talked about getting everyone together for the holidays. Her parents had looked at me with gratitude, and her brother had clapped me on the back, calling me the real hero for always stepping in to make things happen. I had believed every word of it. At that time, I was just happy to be part of their world, to be the one who made it all come together. The memories played out in my mind like a movie, picking out hotels for our family holidays, the look of surprise and joy on Madison's mom's face when I'd covered the costs of our trip to Italy, knowing they couldn't afford it themselves. Madison's father had pulled me aside that evening, his voice filled with gratitude. You know, we may not say it enough, but we really appreciate you. My heart had swelled with pride back then. I had done it all for them, not because I expected anything in return, but because I truly wanted to be the man who held everything together. It was all for Madison, for the family I thought I was building. But now, as the weight of their betrayal crushed me, those memories turned bitter. The family trips, the laughter, everything I had done had been a gesture of love. I had believed in the bonds we shared, in the idea that family could be a sanctuary from the chaos of life. But it wasn't real. It was all just a facade. I had been the one to carry their burdens, to make everything happen, believing that one day, this love and gratitude would be returned. Instead, I had been a tool, a means to an end. And in the end, all my sacrifices had been repaid with lies. But that night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I planned. I opened every app, every reservation, every invoice, every login. And what I found was beautiful, because everything was in my name. The hotel, the catering. They'd wanted me invisible. They should have made sure I didn't still have the keys to their kingdom. I couldn't believe it. They had all been lying to me, planning the trip behind my back, using me as a convenient ATM. But the real shock came much later, when the truth I had been blind to finally came to light. A few days after they left for the vacation, I started to notice strange things. Madison wasn't as responsive to my messages, and when she did respond, her answers were short, curt. It wasn't like her. Later that evening, I opened my iPad. I was sitting in the living room, numb from everything that had happened, when I saw something that made my blood run cold. It was an advertisement. I'm not sure why I clicked on it. Maybe I just wanted something to distract me from the storm swirling in my mind. The ad was for the hotel where Madison and her family were staying. I couldn't resist. I tapped the link. The screen showed a beautiful, newly opened Italian restaurant at the resort. There were warm, ambient lights, flickering candles, and crisp white tablecloths. It looked like the kind of place I'd want to visit with Madison, if only we were actually there together. And then, There she was. Madison. I saw her sitting at a table, her hair pulled back in that perfect style she always wore when she was trying to look effortlessly chic. The waiter, smiling politely, placed a stunning dish in front of her. She looked up at him with a smile that didn't belong to a woman whose husband was sitting at home, wondering why he wasn't invited on the trip he'd planned. But that wasn't what made my stomach lurch. It was the man sitting next to her. Someone younger. Someone I didn't recognize. I watched in stunned silence as he leaned in, kissing her gently on the lips. The voiceover in the video said something about beautiful couples enjoying their time together. My heart pounded in my chest. I thought, maybe I was imagining things. Maybe it was just some random guy from the restaurant who had gotten too close. But then I saw it. Her hand was empty. No ring. The realization hit like a wave. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the screen, blinking in disbelief. I couldn't process it at first. My mind screamed, this isn't happening. This can't be real. But there it was, irrefutable. My wife was not only away without me, but she had been lying. She had someone else. I stumbled back from the iPad, my thoughts spiraling. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't stay in the house where everything seemed to remind me of the lies. I stepped outside into the cold night air. The cool breeze didn't calm my racing heart. It didn't settle my thoughts. I walked in circles in the yard, hands in my pockets, trying to make sense of the chaos in my head. Was it really happening? Was my wife really cheating on me? The shock was like a dull ache in my chest, too big to ignore, but too overwhelming to face. I finally made my way back inside. I couldn't avoid it any longer. I grabbed my phone and opened the hotel's website. I had to see the video again. This couldn't be real. And there it was. Again. Madison. The man beside her. The empty ring finger. It was real. I knew what I had to do next. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I wasn't going to call her, cry, or beg her to explain. She had already made her choice. It was time for me to reclaim control. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say when she came back, but I did know one thing. I wasn't going to let her or her family get away with this. I had given them everything, and they had taken it, used me, and discarded me like an afterthought. They thought they could play me. But now, I was done. The betrayal, the lies, the planning, all of it made sense now. And now it was my turn. And I wasn't going to let this slide. I called Madison on the phone, but she didn't answer, so I decided to send a message. Enjoy the vacation, babe. I hope you and your family have a great time. By the way, just wanted to remind you, I took care of a few things. Don't worry about the hotel or the insurance. You're welcome. I knew exactly what to do. The harsh light from my laptop screen illuminated my face as my eyes scanned the bookings and receipts I had gathered. I had everything. Flight details, a reservation for the first 3 nights at the hotel, followed by a VIP hotel booking for 14 days. Everything they had planned. And now, it was my turn to play the game. Madison didn't realize that the keys to their kingdom were still in my hands. Because I had made all the reservations, I had paid for every aspect of the trip, and I was the one who had only booked their first 3 days at that hotel. I decided to cancel the reservation for their stay at the other hotel. Every booking had been made in my name, every transaction linked to my credit card. Madison and her lover had planned all of this behind my back, but now I had the chance to destroy it. And I was going to do just that. Without hesitation, I clicked the cancel reservation button. This would hit them hard, especially since they were already there and had planned to extend their stay at another luxurious hotel. And now, they'd get nothing. I calmed myself down and, feeling surprisingly at peace, I decided to go to bed. The weight of everything that had happened slowly began to lift as I lay there, knowing that I had finally taken control of the situation. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Madison. Her voice was frantic, sharp with anger. She screamed at me, asking why I had canceled their reservation. She went on about how they had checked out of the first hotel, and when they arrived at the second one, they discovered the booking had been canceled. She said they had spent hours arguing with the hotel staff, insisting they had the right to stay there, but the security had eventually kicked them out in disgrace. Her outrage echoed through the phone, but I remained calm. Why did you cancel it? She demanded again. I didn't even raise my voice. I'll send you the link to a new reservation, I replied. And by the way, don't bother trying to reach me until you've thought it through. Then, I hung up. I took a moment to breathe, then attached the link to the video I had found earlier. The video from the hotel's website, where I had seen her with a man, her lover, sitting together in that restaurant. The video was a perfect reminder of her betrayal. I hit send, knowing it would stir something in her. The next 30 minutes were silent. No calls, no messages. Just an eerie, heavy silence. It was as if the entire family had gone into damage control mode, trying to figure out how to salvage whatever they could from the mess they had made. I imagined Madison, her parents, and her brother all scrambling, trying to come up with an explanation for the chaos. They must have realized, just as I had, that there would be no more money from me. No more trips paid for, no more secrets left to hide. Through the next half hour, I waited in silence, feeling strangely distant yet strangely liberated. Then, a message appeared on my phone. It was from Madison. "You misunderstood everything. I'll be back soon, and we'll talk about this. I love you." Her words were cold comfort. I wasn't sure what kind of explanation she thought would ease the situation, but at this point, I was beyond caring. She had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The next morning, Madison arrived. She stood in the doorway, looking slightly disheveled, like she had barely slept. The moment she stepped inside, her eyes immediately sought mine, full of guilt and, to my surprise, a hint of panic. She opened her mouth, but I raised my hand, signaling for her to stop. She didn't listen. She rushed forward, trying to take my hands, her voice trembling with a mixture of frustration and desperation. "I know this looks bad, but you've got to understand. It's not what you think," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I never wanted to hurt you, Aya." I pulled my hands away, holding them up to stop her. "No, Madison," I interrupted, my voice steady, but there was an edge to it now. "No more lies. I saw everything. I saw you. I saw him." Her face twisted with confusion, her brows furrowing. "I don't," she started, but I cut her off again. "I watched you on the hotel video, Madison. I saw everything. You and him, right there, together." I paused, letting the silence stretch out between us. "And what do you think about that? What do you have to say for yourself?" She took a shaky breath, biting her lip. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I am, but—" "Sorry." I laughed bitterly. "Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't undo the lies, the betrayal, the manipulation. And sorry certainly doesn't erase the fact that for months, you've been using me. You've been playing me, Madison. I was a fool to think that all those trips, all that money, that everything I did for your family meant something." My voice was getting louder now, but I didn't care. "And now, here we are. And you think you can just waltz in and apologize?" Her face crumpled with regret. "I never meant for it to go this far. I thought it was just something small, harmless." But then she trailed off, clearly struggling to find the right words. "Harmless?" I repeated, my tone dangerously calm. "You had an affair, Madison. You had an affair while I was paying for everything, while I was trusting you with my heart. You think I'm going to let you explain that away?" She stepped closer, her voice rising in desperation. "Please, just hear me out." "No," I said, my voice finally breaking through the anger. "I've heard enough. I've heard everything I need to hear." I shook my head, disbelief etched on my face. "You betrayed me in ways I can't even begin to explain. And no amount of pleading or apologies is going to change that. So let me make this clear to you, Madison. There's no forgiveness here. Not for what you've done." Her eyes widened, and she looked as if she was on the verge of tears. "What do you mean? Are you saying you're done with us?" I nodded slowly. "I'm done. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I haven't seen who you truly are. You've used me. You've lied to me. And now you've insulted me in the worst possible way." I paused, my chest heavy with the weight of the decision I was making. "I'm filing for divorce, Madison. I can't live like this anymore. This relationship has been nothing but one betrayal after another, and I've finally had enough." Her face paled, and for the first time, I saw her crumble. "No. Please, don't do this. I'll change. I swear. Just don't leave me." "You don't get to ask for that, not anymore," I said, my voice growing colder. "You've already made your choices. And now, I'm making mine." Her breath hitched, and for a brief moment, she seemed to lose the fight in her. She stood there, her hands trembling, as the gravity of my words hit her. "I've done everything for you," I added, my voice quieter now, filled with finality. "But you've turned everything I did for you into a joke. I was there for you, for your family. And you repaid me with lies, with betrayal, and with this." She opened her mouth as if to say something more, but the words never came. She was speechless. And I was done. I turned and walked away, knowing that no matter how much she tried to convince me otherwise, the damage had already been done. The divorce came soon after. Madison, of course, tried to play the victim. She said I was being petty, childish. She even tried to twist it, make it look like I was the one who had pushed her away, made her feel isolated. But I had nothing to prove. The truth was already clear. We signed the papers quickly. There was no fighting over assets. I had been the one to pay for everything, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into giving her anything more. But then, a week after the divorce was final, something unexpected happened. I got a text from her, Madison. I'm sorry for everything. I've been going to therapy, and I want you to know that I regret everything. But there was no apology in her words. Just another attempt to get me to feel sorry for her. To take her back. I didn't respond. Her email a few days later read the same way. I miss you. I hope we can find a way to make this work. But I had already moved on. This time, I wasn't the fool. I didn't just close that chapter, I burned the book. I was at home when the doorbell rang. Standing at the threshold were Madison's parents, nervously exchanging glances. I could see the tension in their faces as they shifted uncomfortably, unsure of how to proceed. I motioned for them to come in and led them to the living room. It had been several weeks since the divorce, and despite their initial reaction to it, the shock, the denial, something had clearly changed. They had heard the whispers, the rumors. The image of their perfect family, the one they had spent years carefully crafting, had begun to crack. And now, sitting across from me, they were starting to see those cracks for themselves. Madison's father, usually so calm and composed, now looked uneasy. His hands trembled slightly as he stirred his coffee, and his gaze darted around the room, avoiding direct confrontation. Listen, we never wanted things to go this far, he began, his voice shaking slightly. Madison, she's always been so convincing, you know? She had us believe everything was fine. Madison's mother, who had remained silent up until now, shifted in her chair. The guilt was starting to seep through her, and she could no longer deny her own role in the deception. We were just trying to keep the peace, she murmured quietly. I never thought she would do something like this. To you. To us. I thought we were doing the right thing. Her words hung in the air, filled with regret. For the first time, both of them seemed to realize the gravity of what they had done. They had allowed their daughter to manipulate not only me, but them as well, using the family bonds as leverage. And now, they had no choice but to confront the truth. I looked at them, calm yet deeply wounded. You've been living in a lie, and you helped her build it. You knew she was using me, that she was cheating on me, but you didn't care. It was too convenient to play along with her game. Madison's father flinched, his mouth dry. That's not true. We didn't know everything. No, I interrupted. You didn't want to know. You were too busy enjoying the perks to care about the cost. A heavy silence fell between us, thick with the weight of what had been said. For a brief moment, the illusion of unity that they had clung to for so long crumbled before their eyes. It wasn't just Madison who had been manipulating. It was all of them. And now, the consequences were clear. Madison's mother spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what we were thinking. We thought we were doing the right thing, but we were wrong. We let her control everything. Madison's mother couldn't hide her tears, her head lowered as if trying to escape reality, but her eyes told the story of someone who finally understood the price of her support. Madison's father's face softened, a mix of sorrow and resignation on his features. Maybe you were fooled by her lies, but you still chose to support her. You chose to help her hurt me. And now, you have to live with that. The room fell silent, filled only with the understanding that, in some way, all of them had been participants in this web of deceit. Madison's parents had no answers, only regret. And for the first time, they seemed to grasp the full extent of their complicity in the unraveling of this family. I didn't need their apologies. I didn't need their sympathy. I had already made my peace with what had happened. I don't need you to apologize, I said, standing up from my chair. What I need is for you to understand. You helped her tear apart something that didn't deserve to be torn. And now, it's too late for any of that to change. I turned away from them, heading toward the door, knowing that there was nothing left to say. It was over. For me, for them, for Madison. I heard them both move behind me, but I didn't look back. I didn't need to. There was nothing more they could offer me. No more empty promises or explanations that would change anything. I opened the door and stood there, looking at the quiet street outside. You know where the door is, I said, not turning around. Please, leave. We're done here. They didn't fight me. They didn't say anything more. They simply walked out, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I closed the door behind them and stood there, taking a deep breath. It was over. The lies, the manipulation, the pain, it was all in the past now. I had taken back control of my life. And as I walked away from the door, I realized something. I had finally broken free.